In most sciences, there are two major ways of approaching theory, either arriving at theory using inductive reasoning or testing it using deductive reasoning. There is another way of arriving at theory using abductive reasoning. We'll put that aside for the moment and get to it shortly as soon as we finish talking about inductive and deductive approaches to theory. If you look at the link that I provided you on this slide, there are some very good simplified examples of the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning used to arrive at theory. When we use deductive reasoning, we're moving from the general to the particular in order to arrive at logical conclusions about specific things under observation. So sociologists use deductive reasoning to test hypotheses and theories. Sociologists who are using deductive reasoning begin with a theory or propose a hypothesis, and based on that theory or that hypothesis, they make predictions about what they expect our observations should be if the theory or hypothesis that they're testing is correct. So they're going from the general, the theory or hypothesis, to the specific, the observations that they are making in a specific instance. This is an example of deductive reasoning. Using deductive reasoning, applying a general theory to a specific observation means that we believe if something is true of a class of things in general, it'll also be true for all members of that class. For example, here's a very simplified and very common example. The example of all men are mortal. Harold is a man, therefore Harold is mortal. Deductive reasoning lets researchers apply theory or hypotheses, that is the generalities, to specific situations. Inductive reasoning works in the opposite direction. Inductive reasoning works from observations of specific instances towards making a generalization, towards arriving at a good hypothesis, which you can then test, or developing a theory which is then applied to yet another set of observations. So we make observations of specific instances, we detect a pattern in those observations, and then we work to infer an explanation. This kind of inductive reasoning is used by sociologists, by other social scientists, and in fact by all scientists to form hypotheses and theories. When theories are arrived at inductively, the process is often called developing grounded theory. If you move down a few slides, you'll see a link under the slide that speaks about inductive reasoning. At the bottom where there is a note on grounded theory, it is a really nice, straightforward explanation of what grounded theory is. And finally, abductive reasoning. I said that there was a third kind of reasoning that social scientists use. Abductive reasoning is really neither here nor there. You start with an incomplete or less than satisfactory set of observations. You arrive at the best possible or most likely explanation of what you observe. It's an educated guess. It's most commonly used in formulating hypotheses that can then go on to be further tested. For example, it's the kind of reasoning that's often used by physicians when they're making a diagnosis.